Today on the CEO Barbecue, we're going to be looking for gold and base metals across the Arabian Nubian Shield, but mostly in Saudi Arabia, though, together with Sunpeak Metals. For a bullet point summary of this and all other CEO interviews, please go to resourcetalks.com and subscribe to our free weekly newsletter. The company you're about to hear from has paid us for the production of this interview, but this interview is still intended only for experienced speculators because this is venture capital and mining is a very risky industry where failure is the norm. All conversations are general and impersonal in nature, and they contain forward-looking statements. I'm not a licensed financial advisor, and my business sells content-producing services, which also makes me biased. So before continuing on, please talk to an independent investment advisor with a good long-term track record because your capital is at risk, and also visit setterplus.ca where you'll find the company's official filings. If you're not 100% sure you understand all the biases and the disclaimers that I just showed you, please go to the last section of this video and do not consume this content unless you fully understand and agree with everything said herein. That all said, Sunpeak is now a bit of a pivot story, maybe if I could call it that, because up until recently, their core assets or the core asset was the Shire VMS project in Ethiopia, which became less of a geology challenge and more of a can you really operate here challenge. And last year that is. And as the interim regional administration in the country enacted a suspension of all mining activities in March of 2025, Sunpeak suspended fieldwork accordingly, and then it later declared a force majeure. Now, that's the past, and it is the sad part of the story, but where the positive side comes in is that in December, Sunpeak completed the acquisition of the Saudi Discovery Company. So it's now a vehicle for exploration in that same Arabian-Nubian Shield, still looking for VMSs, but it's now anchored in Saudi Arabia, where fieldwork is allowed, and it actually has already started with geological mapping and geochem underway, as well as some geophysics planned for later this quarter. Of course, with the idea to integrate that data into initial drill targets, which are then expected to move rather quickly. And the projects should be drilled in the second half of 2026, which of course, Greg and I will talk about later on. Post-transaction, Sunpeak now has 6 100% owned Saudi licenses totaling about 500 square kilometers, while also awaiting results on the ministry's auction, which, if positive, could add close to 700 square kilometers of land. And there are also 2 additional applications under review, which we'll probably touch upon as well. Just briefly, because Greg will be telling me more about that later on. The targets here are, as I mentioned, also VMS targets with grab samples across the 3 projects, already showing high-grade precious and base metal values. And then on the Saffir project, which I would call it the flagship asset right now, there's even some trench results showing over 22 meters with close to a gram of gold, 35 grams of silver, 0.2% copper, close to 2% lead, and 1.2% zinc. So polymetallic VMSs is what they're chasing here. What exactly are the expectations for the Truth Machine when that's sunk later on this year? And what are the risks for this program are all going to be part of the questions that I'll be asking Greg later on. Now, for some of the numbers and a little bit of the details, Sunpeak is listed as just PEAK, so PEAK on the TSX-V, where the average 3-month volume is about 40,000 shares. The stock's 52-week high is 41.5 cents, and its 52-week low is 15 cents. With a market cap of a little under $66 million and just under 165 million shares outstanding, today this is a 40-cent stock. So it's right there at that 52-week high. And it's also got a 50 and a 200-day moving average at respectively 36 and 28 cents, which means the stock is not trading above both of them. Moving on to the share structure, the SEDI filings show me that Greg owns close to 7.5 million shares, or a little under 5% of the company. But how much of it was actually bought and paid for, and what was the average cost is also something I'll be asking him later on. On top of it's actually, to be specific, it's 164.25 million shares outstanding. And on top of that, there are close to 10 million warrants at 50 cents, as well as 10.6 million options, which brings the number of fully diluted shares to right under 185 million. In total, that could result in an increase of about 12.5% in shares outstanding if all the dilutive securities get exercised. And that would then result in about an 11% ownership dilution if, and that's always a big if, but if all dilutive securities get exercised. And of course, none of this accounts for potential dilution down the road, which is not unlikely given that this is a pre-revenue company that relies on the public markets to fund its activities. Talking about funding and money, Sunpeak raised almost $7 million late last year, and the September balance sheet shows no long-term debt, with about $50,000 of account payables on it. Now, is that $7 million enough to generate some catalysts and some drill results? How much is G&A going to cost them in the meantime? And when will they have to raise again? As well as how will they raise when the time comes? Are all questions that I'll be asking later on in the conversation as well. But for this to become a conversation, I will have to shut up finally. And Greg, I will give you the word here. But first of all, thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Antonio. Um,
Yeah, the pleasure is mine. And I'm saying today, but it's almost tomorrow for you because you are in Saudi right now, as far as I understand it.
yeah, we're just completed day two of the 3-day FMF here in Riyadh. It's the fifth year, the Future Metals Forum. I believe the first year had 5,000 attendees. The second year, somewhere around eight, and then 12, and I think it's over 20,000
Wow.
this year. So it really, demonstrates the success that the Saudi Ministry of Mines have had in communicating with the world that they're open for business in the mining department.
So it's like the Arabian PDAC, essentially, because PDAC is what, 30,000 people?
Yeah, and we will be at PEAK in March, of course, but it really has a different feel. It is very, Middle Eastern focused and in particular Saudi focused. The Arabian Shield here in Saudi is, we've known it's been prolific for a long, long time, but it's only really been, I guess, a couple of things. In 2019, the Saudi government changed the law where foreign companies could now have 100% ownership. Prior to that, only a minority interest. And the other thing is that was the law and one thing, but also the sentiment has changed. It's been a direct direction from the leadership that to make mining the third pillar of the economy. And that really has had a huge impact on the sentiment here in Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm. You're kind of giving me FOMO here, Greg. If I feel like I should be there, I should be at that conference, and maybe I will actually next year. Now that I'm thinking about it, you're bringing up an important point, which is the jurisdiction, how that's changed over the last 10, 15 years, or maybe even less than that. And I am looking forward to going over some of those basics there. And although you and I have spoken before on multiple occasions, including in a podcast with Luke Den Hav a while back, as well as I did see you at PDAC last year. I guess this is your first kind of official time on the CEO barbecue, though. So I will have to ask, how do you like your steak?
My steak, medium rare.
Medium rare. That's the
Yeah,
only right
I forgot
answer.
about that one. Yeah, yeah, it had me on my heels there. Medium rare, but I don't like it. I love it.
That's it. That's it. That is the right answer. And jokes aside, we will do a deeper dive into some of the details
Of
later
course.
on. But to set the stage here, you're now what I would classify as a turnaround story, although maybe not entirely because the pivot is not really all that big, specifically in terms of geology, big in terms of jurisdiction.
Mhm.
But we'll talk about geology and everything later on. The point, really, the question for me is that turnaround stories, they come with their set of challenges, and a lot of them don't succeed. So why should I believe you're going to be different?
Well, there are challenges, despite the rosy outlook of exploration and invitation to come here and explore in Saudi Arabia. There are clear challenges. They're not apparent right away, but one of them is they have done a tremendous job of drawing attention. So we are facing competition from a lot of major companies that are here. Some of the largest mining companies in the world, and also there's been a real rush of junior companies. Trying to grab ground. Our advantage is we do have 20 years experience in the Arabian Nubian Shield. We have a formula, techniques and methods that work. We've done the licenses we have already. We put a lot of effort into research, scouring, visiting numerous sites across Saudi Arabia and carefully selecting them based on our experience. And we only select them if we really feel that there is potential to turn into an economic deposit. And that might, if you look at our portfolio, we're kind of scattered across. And it kind of represents that approach that we've taken. We've taken a real rifled approach in selecting our properties, and they're sort of scattered on the Red Sea side, on the western side of Saudi Arabia, but from north to right down to north of Yemen.
Hmm. And again, we'll go into some of the details of what you're seeing here. So I think this is a nice opener. It sets the stage nicely, I think. But since this is again your first official time, I suppose, on the barbecue, we'll have to maybe take a step back and go through what I call the smell test first, which intends to understand more about what the incentives and the track record of management are. Starting off with yourself and your track record. Who are you, and have you made more money for shareholders than what you've spent during your career so far?
Well, I think I checked the box on that in a positive way. Who am I? I've been in the mining business, exploration business for 30 years. In the 90s, I worked extensively in Canada, based in Vancouver. We managed projects up in the Arctic. We were active in the diamond exploration that was occurring in the early 90s, mid 90s. I worked for a consulting company at that point, and we were successful. Multiple discoveries, kimberlite pipes that some of them have turned into diamond mines for our clients. We also did a lot of at the same time, nickel and platinum, palladium exploration up in the high Arctic, north of the Arctic Circle. We had a real learning curve, a real challenge, and a great variety of exposure. And we use a lot of different techniques, geophysical techniques. At the time, I worked with a lot of really good technical people. I sort of moved into project management at that time, and projects in northern BC, Newfoundland, and Northwest Territories and Nunavut. And then the real change, which where I am today, was really in late 2002. Nevsun Resources. They were at the time their flagship project was the Tabakoto project in Mali, and they were just completing a feasibility study and beginning. The next step was to build the mine, but they also had this project that it was identified a few years earlier by their CEO at the time, John Clark, who had worked in East Africa and in Eritrea. And it was really a gossip. There was a couple of most of the samples in the gossip were low grade, like almost barren gold, but there were a few interesting spikes. But it had been under force majeure conditions for 3 years.
Mhm.
I think 99, 2000, 2001, and it came out in 2002. And the government, the Ministry of Mines in Eritrea, told Nevsun that you better do something or we have others that want it. So they quickly hired our team as employees as to comprise the exploration team working under Bill Nilsson, the VP of exploration at the time. And the first holes were really drilled just quickly by geometry. We saw the Gossan poking out of the ground, stepped back and drilled underneath it, but the results were extremely high grade. The top 30 meters were to the surface were iron oxide, rich in gold in the Gossan. I think it averaged around 7 grams per ton. But we had in that section we had intervals of 30 meters of 20 grams per ton. So, and then below that was the supergene copper, and we had intervals of 4% copper with gold and silver in it. So very, very high grade, but then we drilled underneath it. Uh, and as we moved south, and this is in 2003 now, it started to thin and move around a little. But we brought in a technique that we used in the 90s in the Arctic, looking for massive sulfides, ground gravity, very tight, detailed ground gravity. And that technology been known for decades, of course. Very detailed gravity measurements, looking for fluctuations showing denser bodies in the ground. Like the massive sulfide has a higher specific gravity than the country rock. But up until the late 90s, it was very slow, expensive, and cumbersome. You had to use a survey team and a theodolite and do old-fashioned survey methods. But with GPS coming on, very detailed GPS, it made it a lot quicker. And we had used that in the Canadian Arctic. So we brought a company over and started on the north part of the project. It clearly defined the zone that we had intercepted. And it also As it moved south, the gravity lost its signature too. So we didn't know if we had just discovered a very, very high grade small pod. But as the gravity moved south, it 500 meters south, another gravity anomaly formed. It was completely flat alluvium, like flat soil, but a very, very strong gravity anomaly. And then in early May 2003, we moved our drill, almost essentially a blind target, and drilled vertical into we debated whether to come from this side or this side. Ultimately, let's just drill it like a dart right down the middle. And we hit 164 meters, high grade gold, high grade copper, and then it went forever in high grade zinc, massive sulfides. We didn't know the grades at the time, but we could compare it to the holes we did in the north. And we were pretty sure we were onto something. And that was a real turning point. That was our 39th hole at Bisha. Then we essentially drilled 70,000 meters in the next 14 months and defined Bisha. Um, and then, we went quickly into resource calculations. Now our team moved on. Uh, Out of our office, we called it a sister company called Sunridge Gold. Sunridge Gold was also, well, we saw other opportunities in Eritrea. The board at Nepsun was really focused on Tabakoto still in West Africa, and now they had Bisha, and they really felt that they were taking on a lot. It was a lot, so they took a pass on this other area. Some people we know acquired it into a shell, and that became Sunridge. And then we shifted over and took senior management positions with Sunridge and applied the same exploration techniques. And then over the next decade, we defined 6 deposits, including the flagship, which was called Emba Derho, which is about 17 kilometers north of Asmara. And it also was really the breakthrough hole was targeted using gravity. And that one, it had been known for quite a while. It had been drilled by 5 parties ahead of us, but they were just drilling the Gossan, just like what was sticking out of the ground at Bisha. But we did gravity, and we identified, or our technical team identified, um, an offset gravity anomaly. And so we moved the drills over, and our team drilled that and hit 200 plus meters of massive sulfide. And so 300,000 meters of drilling later, we defined a 85 million ton resource, uh, copper, gold, zinc, and silver. And we took that through the whole gamut of resource calculations, pre-feas, feasibility, a massive environmental and social program studies that we're very, very proud of because it was bulletproof. It was completely solid, really good mining plan. And we did an integrated mining plan involving 3 other deposits. Very good plan. And phase 1 would have been low capex. It would have been $35 million, if I recall. Yeah, $35 million to mine a zone in another satellite deposit, which hosted a zone of 18% copper, um, uh, about 30 meters below the surface. So that would have been phase 1. To mine that out, it would have been a few 100,000 tons. And for the capex of 35 million, I can't remember what the operating cost, but it was very low because it was merely mining, crushing, and direct shipping.
Hmm.
It would have brought in under the prices back then, which is around $3 copper. I think it was $3 and just 3 to 5. I can't remember exactly. It would have brought in a very short period of time of 2 years, several $100 million. So that was a great plan, and that would have been used to build out the plant for the bigger Embadero deposit. However, in 2015, the government of Eritrea, well, we had an offer from a Chinese company, and it looked like there was support from the government for us to agree to it. So we ultimately sold that completed the deal in, I think it was May of 2016. And immediately after, we've been working in these rocks for now over a decade. We're very familiar with them, and they sort of trend, not quite straight, but north-south. And to the south was the border with Ethiopia running east-west. So in June and July of 2016, our team, myself, we went down for 6 weeks reconnaissance in Ethiopia. We started off by knocking on the doors in Addis and introducing ourselves to the Ministry of Mines, going to the Geological Survey and introducing ourselves, making calls to all the companies working in the country and just introducing ourselves. And then we went up to Tigray and we were delighted. We saw the same rocks, same trends coming down and the same gossans and like zones. And we made a decision to proceed. We established Sun Peak, founded Sun Peak, founded a Ethiopian subsidiary, started hiring a team, and started going into acquisition mode, trying to put together our package. That took a couple of years up until about 2018, where we essentially put everything together. Some of it was 100% owned by Sun Peak. Others, we did a agreement with a local company called Izana. They also had a very similar agreement with Newmont. So we kind of shared this trend. We had sort of the northeast part of it, and they had the southwest. Uh, they were there ahead of us. And Sun Peak started work in 2018. Everything was encouraging, and it was, we had its challenges working in a new jurisdiction, but we were able to navigate. But everything was looking promising on the technical side in 2018, 2019. 2020, we started drilling in February, March, and then we had to suspend because of COVID in late March. But we had drilled 19 holes on three different targets and we hit what we're looking for. We hit intercepts of multi-percent copper, multi-gram gold, multi-percent zinc, and silver. And so we suspended because of COVID in March. By July, we were able to do some low-level work. We were allowed to because of the local COVID rules. And then we ramped up for a drill program, bringing in three drills. And we just started drilling. We were only, I don't know, 10 days, 2 weeks into it. And then November 4th, 2020, war broke out suddenly between the Tigray forces and the federal forces.
Hmm.
It's extremely unfortunate. We're friends with everybody on both sides. It was very, very tough. We had to suspend our operations the war went on for 2 years. We suspended for 3 years. In 2023, we did a lot of trips and we watched it sort of stabilize. And we had a checklist of items we needed to see in order for us to come back to work safely. We thought we'd achieve that. We went back to work in 24, but we were really limited on how it affected how we needed to be nimble being an exploration company. The roads on the property were in disrepair, and there was still a bit of a hangover from the conflict, where previously when we go into villages and introduce ourselves, we were welcomed. Now we go into villages and we had to show documentation, which meant a lot of back and forth and paperwork and very, very slow. There was still a little bit of instability in the area. But we hoped it would calm down, and we do a lot of intel and we have advisors. And then in late 2025, we were gearing up to drill again, and and do some ground geophysics, ground mapping. We did that, but the situation in early 2025 became clear that we wasn't quite ready yet. And in addition to that, there's a lot of illegal miners in Tigray, and turns out there's a lot of gold there. And the locals, the Tigray administration really needed to sort that out. So they suspended all mining activities across the board, and that included exploration. We weren't mining, of course. We were merely doing exploration, but it wasn't clear. So we suspended our activities. We've done our best to keep our staff employed and communicate with all the stakeholders. But to this day, we still remain in the same situation in Tigray. But we really hope for the best in that region. It's a fabulous region, great people. I just keep hoping that somehow we'll come out of it with peace and prosperity for the people there. The projects are really geologically magnificent. There is great potential there. We know that. We had identified numerous targets that if we were allowed to drill, I think we would be able to develop some projects that would be to benefit all. And of course, what we would offer there is instead of illegal mining, we would offer a structured mining, and we wouldn't just be going after gold, we'd be going after base metals. So very structured, would come with a feasibility study, with a social and environmental plan. We'd have, the usual health and safety standards, proper consideration to the environment, structured employment, training that would benefit everybody. But unfortunately, that's still into the future. So during that time, we were looking at many, many opportunities for to other projects, and we were looking globally, really. We did some other things. To lower the overhead, the corporate overhead of Sunpeak. We took other positions with other as advisory roles or custodian roles, really, with other companies. And the money we made, we didn't put it on top of our salaries, our team. Everybody did this. It lowered off our overhead for Sunpeak. So that enabled us to preserve cash, which was crucial through that period.
Mhm.
One of the things we did during that time is, we had looked at Saudi Arabia for a long time. It's the east side of the Red Sea, the Arabian part of the Arabian-Nubian Shield. And in Saudi Arabia, 650,000 square kilometers of Arabian-Nubian Shield is exposed. On the west side, it's less than that, and it's across, Egypt, Sudan, Eritrea, and northern Ethiopia. There's a lot more communities, livestock, farming, all those things. A lot more challenges, and not to mention the borders and other things. So in Saudi Arabia, of course, it's not empty, but there's a lot more empty space. Beautiful landscape, but void of any towns or villages or things like that. Um, so when we were in the process of lowering our, doing other things to lower the overhead for Sunpeak, we came across a group that was connected well and building a network in Saudi Arabia. So we took on a role kind of advising them on, what based on our experience, uh, what projects we thought had the technical merit, the most perspective. And that's where they formed SDC, Saudi Discovery Company, and uh, went into acquisition mode.
Mhm.
However, after it was around last spring, our Sunpeak team, we continued on the other side looking for other opportunities for Sunpeak shareholders to pivot. We really wanted to keep the Sherry project in good standing, and it is. It remains under force majeure in good standing, and we look forward to returning there when the time is right. But we were looking at opportunities, and I could list the different countries and jurisdictions, and we were looking for good projects, and we have access to a expanded technical team. So we're even looking up the food chain at more like development projects. And back to SDC, one thing that became clear is if you're going to be in Saudi Arabia, you have to go full speed ahead. You can't, like other jurisdictions, build slowly, keep the costs down, sit there, be in the jurisdiction so that if you see an opportunity, you can take advantage and move on it later. The only way to be successful here is to go in a pretty big way, commitment, bring a team, and go hard. Explore as quickly and efficiently as you can. So with Sunpeak looking at other opportunities, SDC really needed a full technical team, and being a small company, they didn't have the same access to capital that Sunpeak has. So somehow we started talking about, well, instead of us looking at these projects, you need a team. Why don't we start considering us taking over Saudi Discovery Company
Mhm.
and us being Sunpeak? And we had discussions through the summer and it got more serious. And then in September, of course, we announced the first LOI it was right after Beaver Creek, I think,
Mhm.
of the acquisition or merger or whatever you want to call it. Um, and then through the fall, it was complete. transaction deal mode, a lot of paperwork and going through the regulatory. And it was finally at the same time we were doing a raise. We raised $6.7 million into the new post transaction company. And we finally completed and got all the approvals. I was late, December 16th, I believe.
Hmm.
So,
I, I like it. I like the answer there because I think this answer alone was longer than most interviews out there, so I can appreciate
okay.
that.
Sorry,
Uh,
I kind
I
of was
can,
going on there a bit, but
I can
okay.
appreciate the detail. That's exactly. I mean it when I say that I like it. I do mean it. And going back, it's good to have kind of that full historical overview of how you got here and where you came through. Do you currently do anything else? Do you hold any other executive or board positions? Because you mentioned there that you worked for other companies in the meantime. Do you do something else now?
Right now, I do not, um, other than a private company with projects in British Columbia and Northern Canada.
Hmm. Is that not is there was a relation there with that private company and Sunpeak, I think, for a moment, or is that just kind of how you get paid essentially through Sunpeak?
Sorry, the which company are you talking about? The BC company?
Yeah,
No, there's no relationship. I mean, the name we it was a numbered company, and we started unofficially calling it Peak BC, if that's what you mean. So it
right.
had
Okay.
the name just came Peak BC, but other than similar founders and shareholders, it did not have anything to do with with Sun Peak.
Do
And
you,
essentially, how that came about is over the years we look at a lot of projects globally, and we kept looking at projects in British Columbia, thinking, "Wow, this looks very interesting." But that's not what we do. We don't, and we live in British Columbia. We started our careers working in the field in British Columbia, but this wouldn't fit with our companies right now. You know, the companies we have, and so we started thinking, well, and one of our geologists has a lot of exposure to British Columbia. So why don't we put a numbered company together? And if we see something, we can just put it in the numbered company and we can fund a little bit of work on it and do it ourselves. And so that's how it started. And we did that for a few years. We spend less time looking at that than we do our hockey pools. It was more of a fun thing, looking at projects and putting them in there. But I guess a couple of years ago, we started to, do a little bit more work, and it started looking quite promising, those projects. So uh, that's Peak BC.
hmm yeah. So what are you, like a mountain climber or something? What's your obsession with peaks?
No, I think that just came from, Nev Sun, and then we had Sun Ridge. And so when we were trying to find a name for the next company, okay, we've had Sun twice in a row, and it worked out quite well. So what can we do with Sun? And threw around a whole bunch. Sun Peak. Okay, that's how that came about. So
Yeah, that's good.
yeah.
I like that background. I like that story. I want to talk about skin in the game as well, Greg. As I mentioned earlier, you own close to 7.5 million shares. That's about just a little under 5%. How did you get those shares, and what's the average cost that you've paid for them?
Well, I'll run through to the best of my memory. I think it's all public, but my first shares was I have 3.5 million shares at a penny, and that was the founder shares, the seed the company was first organized in June of 2016. And then the next round, I invested, trying to remember the exact, 1 million shares, 500,000 shares at 5 cents.
Hmm.
And then a few 100,000 shares at 15 cents. And now I've invested between 2019 and recently, I think about $200,000 at 35 cents.
Okay. So there's no, what I'm looking for here, Greg, is cheap paper, essentially like one penny stock or something else that you or somebody else got in the meantime.
Yep, yep, I do. That was from 2016. I've never sold a share, of course. And for the first 3 years, we never took a salary.
Hmm.
Um, and we worked hard. We were scouring the ground, and but that's how that came about. But we just participated in the last financing. was quite pleased to see that a lot of insiders did, and the people from the other side, from Saudi Discovery Company, also invested into the financing at 35 cents.
Yeah. Is there what about the rest of the insiders? It's your 5% plus how much? How much of the stock is within insiders?
I think it is close to close to 20%.
Mhm.
If I had, I'm pretty, the range would be somewhere between 18 and 22 of
Okay.
insiders.
Right. If I
And, oh, sorry.
oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
I said, and then probably another 5 to 10 of our network, our Vancouver, like our close network
Right.
of, we've got a lot of support from, the network we've had, from Nepsun, Sunridge to Sun Peak,
Hmm.
and continuing in Vancouver.
Yeah. Well, it seems like the sun branding is working. That's exactly where I was going with
Well,
this,
we
actually.
kind of, quite frankly, we've had a lot of challenges, of course, in the last few years, and we're kind of think, uh, should we for the next one, should we change the name? But yeah, it's we'll make sure we get it over the fulcrum.
Hmm. Well, as a pale skinned ginger, sun typically doesn't treat me well, so I'm hoping in this situation it would. But what I was going with this essentially, a lot of juniors say that their stock is in tight hands. But if I gave you 5 phone calls outside of what you told me, management plus close associates, how much of the stock would you be able to locate within those 5 phone calls?
Let me just add it up here. 20%,
20%.
15 to 20%. Yeah, I'm
Right.
sorry. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Talking insiders, do you or any of the other insiders personally own a royalty on any of the new projects that you have now in Saudi?
No,
Yeah.
no.
I guess that wouldn't really even be possible at that stage either, like if you wanted to. And that's something that we will talk about. That's about it for the smell test, though, Greg. I want to move on and talk specifically about the business strategy. And the most eye-catching part of your pitch or story is that you're in Saudi Arabia, which is a new jurisdiction, if you will, and you don't hear about it that often. It's also got a bit of a unique process of granting licenses with strategic pivot in the mining investment law in June of 2020, if I've read that correctly, which again has been 5 years since. So again, if the licenses you have now are as good as you hope them to be, why did nobody beat you to them in those 5 years?
Well, there's been a bit of a so when we first started looking at only 2 3 years ago, there there's been a lot of change in the in the license regime inside Arabia. When we first looked on the cadastre system, there was a lot of licenses that have been held for a long time and locked up ground that hadn't been worked. It was clear, and there was also companies that had massive applications, like literally 500 licenses for one company. So the Ministry of Mines has recognized that, and they've been very, very active in dealing with that and really cutting back the amount of licenses that a company can hold and making sure that companies, or whether they be foreign companies or Saudi companies, most of them, because it's still from the past before 2020, advance their licenses or relinquish. So that's opening things up here at the same time. And we do a tremendous amount of, first of all, desktop studies, scouring, reading old reports, USGS reports, BGRM reports, from way back, and then doing a lot of we call it geological tourism, driving back and forth across the country, looking at all these things. Some of these targets that we've identified, we can quickly cross out. This won't, we don't think it'll be economic. Okay, cross this one, I'll cross. But we see a lot that, oh, this looks compelling. Let's take a look at this and spend a bit more time on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were in early. Saudi Discovery Company was in early, doing this kind of work. And we also have the formula, like we said, we've worked in these Arabian Nubian shield rocks for over 20 years now. We think we are experts in this, and we're good at it. And I think that's put us ahead of the crowd.
Yeah. Maybe you can talk to me a little bit more in depth about the whole process. I don't think I fully understand how you how do you apply and who decides if you get new licenses? Does the government always have to have ownership? What about a government royalty? Talk to me about kind of that whole bureaucratic process, if you will.
Yeah, sure. Well, there's different ways to obtain licenses here. The one way, just like other jurisdictions, is identifying areas of interest on open ground. And in that case, you submit an application. It's a very thorough application, which will include, your expenditures, your work program, and your company financials, your team qualifications, right down to individuals' CVs. And they look through everything fairly, very, very thorough. Um, and then your application gets accepted, and then it goes through a process where it gets cleared with all the different ministries that could have a stake in the game, like archaeology, tourism, water, the military, security, agriculture, and they each ministry has to sign off that we're clear to have this to, for actually they clear it as if it's going to be a mine site. And I mean, I don't think this has been tested yet, but so then you obtain your exploration license, but it's gone through the clearance as if it's going to be a mine later. Now you still, of course, have to do it, the proper, in Canada, we call it the technical, the 43101 standards. Yeah, when you do a feasibility study, but it is cleared from all the ministries for a mine at a later date, which is the idea is it's supposed to be very quick once you apply for your mine license down the road. But when you're applying for the initial exploration license, once that is cleared, then you're granted. It's a 5-year license with options to renew, extend, and they have your work commitments, and you have to file your 6-month assessment reports,
Right.
and
Mm.
that's how we've obtained two of our licenses in our portfolio so far, SAFRA and AFIF one,
Mm.
where we following that exact formula of research, groundwork, seeing the opportunity, liking it, and then submitting an application. And the second way, which a very high profile, is the ministry's been going through these auction rounds, and where uh, they pre-clear these areas from all the ministries, so they're all clear, and they put it out for auction, open auction. And each auction is a little bit different. Some of them have you apply with, and it goes through a score where they score 20 points for your exploration plan, 20 points for the merits of your exploration team, 20 points, points being percentage of for your financing ability. There's a score for your environmental and social concerns and for innovation. I think it was 10% marks for innovation. What methods are you using? Are you using cutting edge geophysics, or are you using AI? Or you get scores for that.
Mm.
And in that auction, then they put out the score. They have a committee, and it was awarded to the company with the highest score. And that's how we obtained Almaya, which is 3 licenses, and Alahila, which is down in the south by itself, where we had the highest score coming out of that.
So you get more points for using AI than in that case?
Well, the total score of 100%, 10% was for innovation.
Mm.
So uh, now, quite frankly, we have our own feeling on that. We think there should be a score for your even if our innovation is our experience on the ground, and how quick we can identify these zones, and but we do use we use various methods of ground gravity, ground electromagnetic techniques, airborne techniques. We do use AI for different things. We've played with it a little bit, and of course we use remote sensing techniques.
Mm.
So they all fall into that 10% score
Mm.
of
You use
innovation,
it
and they
to
also fall into the work plan as well.
mm. Do you use it to finish your emails, or do you actually use it in exploration as well?
No, we've used it as machine learning. It's kind of we were so skeptical at first, but we've seen it work. No, I'm not even talking necessarily about our projects. We've used it on our Sherry project. We used the Verify system, and It is really cool. It's quite remarkable, actually. It takes all the data, geophysical data, geochemical data, drill data. It compares it to known zones, machine learning, and we were skeptical, but then it spits out these targets. And the unfortunate thing is because of the conflict, we haven't had the opportunity to go from target to target. Only a few of them, but it's an effective method. It definitely is
Hmm.
the verified method. And but yeah, so in Saudi Arabia, under that system, that was a round five auction. That counted for 10% of your total score.
Hmm. That's
Now,
interesting. I mean, it seems like a more advanced structure than what you would see in Canada or Europe.
it's different, and each auction's a little bit different. Now, the last auction, it wasn't like that at all. They divided the area up into blocks, and it was a pure auction. And what you were bidding on a live auction online against all these other companies is you bid on is a starting bid, and you up it certain amounts on your exploration expenditures for 2 years on each block. So we participated in that, and that was done through started in August and carried on through October.
What is it?
Yeah.
What is it? What is that for you? How much money do you have to spend for those 2 years?
It varies. I think the minimum amount to have a poker in the fire. So the actual first 20 days was clicking on the blocks that you have an interest in. And the minimum amount, I'm trying to remember exactly, was I think 225 SAR, which worked to about $60,000 on
Hmm.
each block. And then so if you once the first round was done, then you went in the multi bid round. And that's when all the companies on the hour have the opportunity to up it. And it was a schedule. It doubled like 225. It went to 450 and then 700 and then up. And then after about round five or round six, then it went up 15% each time.
Hmm.
So quite an interesting process. But and it was for a very large area. I think it was 250 blocks that were going under the auction at the same time. And some of them were very, very coveted, and there's some very, very high bids on some of the more developed gold deposits. Um, for our group, under SDC, it was still under SDC, but we were already announced the LOI. Um, we chose blocks based on our experience for VMS. So we did a lot of research. We were on the ground. We saw where we thought there could be opportunity. We prioritized, and in the end, we ended up with seven blocks that we're quite pleased with.
Hmm.
And they range, if you know, north of the Bolga mine and south of Nokra. And so that is just being wrapped up right now. The dotting the i's and crossing the t's on these.
Hmm. It's interesting. So essentially, the government wants to have companies working there who will spend a lot of money, will innovate, and will actually go after these discoveries.
Yeah, well, I guess that spending a lot of money is sort of the side effect of doing the work.
Yeah.
They want companies that will come in and focus, do high level quality geological exploration work or development work if it's at that stage. But they want the highest level of work to be done. So they're trying to ensure that. So that does come with a certain amount of expenditures.
Hmm.
But yes, they're really working to develop their mining industry fast through these auctions.
Hmm. Yeah, quite different, as you said. What
Ye-
about well, what about the social license to operate? How does that work here? How populated is the region where you are? Do you go directly to the local population? Yeah, what's the current situation for you?
Well, when we apply for licenses, part of it is doing a social study. It's part of
Mm.
the application involves you know social and environmental study. So it comes with uh, about the people of the area, how it's going to affect them, how it's going to affect the environment. Are there any animal issues or water issues or anything like that in the area? So all that is submitted with your application and it goes into consideration. right from the start. And then us, from our experience, of course, we on day one, we want to talk to all the stakeholders around. Now, where our projects are, most of them, it's very, 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 very remote. And despite despite everywhere there's high tension powers going by and there's cell phone reception, and you're not never too far from a beautiful freeway. Uh, but it is remote. There's not a lot of community in the area where
Mhm.
where our licenses are.
Yeah. So
But
you
of course,
wouldn't,
wherever we work, that's always a priority consideration.
but that's all baked into the preliminary process essentially. So you wouldn't need additional permits or anything else to drill later this year. You can just go ahead and start
Yeah,
drilling.
that's the idea. Everything is pre-approved, including the drilling. You state your plan, your work plan and your drilling, and of course we communicate very closely with the Ministry of Mines every step of the way. But yeah, that's the idea is once you get your approvals, your license, you're pre-approved for all the work that you said you're going to do.
Hmm. So not a certain number of pads or anything like that. You can just
No,
go whatever you want on your license, sink a drill hole.
no, I've
That's it.
seen that. It's difficult to work around. It's not like that. No, it's you have to do it right. You have to do proper reclamation, cleanup. You got to keep any kind of drainage has to be clean or recovered. But you can drill anywhere as you please on the project.
Yeah. Well, what about water in that case? I mean, we aren't talking about a desert here, essentially, right? So,
Well, water is going to be something that's always topical. For exploration, we truck it in as we've done in many jurisdictions. The water we need to drill isn't that amount, so we just bring in some water trucks. Uh,
mhm,
if we're successful and down the road, water will be a huge consideration in building a mine. There's ways around it. There's ways of trucking it in even at a high level, and there's also there's water down deep in fault systems and things like that. Water is around,
mhm.
but again, that is something that'll need to be addressed down the way, case by case when you make when you're transitioning from exploration to development.
And that doesn't need special permitting either. That's all included then.
No, water will be something that you have to have permitting on.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
How deep's the water table here? Do you know?
it varies, but there are locations where it's quite deep. Uh, but it does vary. There are also the wadis, which are like shallow valleys, and you can tell them because they're like subtle valleys with uh, plants and trees and vegetation, shrubs all growing in it.
Mhm.
There's water, underground streams there, and a lot of them are associated to underground fault structures and things like that.
Yeah.
So it varies. It's not so much a table you're looking for; it's the trapness, the faults
Right.
in terms of the
It
water.
being so dry, it also probably means year-round exploration. So you're not limited by that, I don't assume.
You might be limited by the heat. There's extreme heat sometimes.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, we have our team has worked in extreme heat before. You just gotta be aware of it and take precautions. But for exploration, when I say extreme heat, I mean approaching 50 degrees in certain time periods.
Yeah.
Right now, it's pleasant. It's 12, 15.
Oh, it gets that low. That's actually
Yeah,
interesting. I would have thought it doesn't get that low. I never really thought about that.
yeah.
Yeah, I just came back from West Africa myself, and it was like 30, and that's what I would call extreme heat. That's too much for me again. Pale skin, ginger hair.
30.
So, yeah,
Well, you have to come on a site visit sometime and
I will. I will come fully clothed in like I have a big like an explorer's hat to cover myself. So I'll definitely bring that along. And I've got your invitation on mic right now, so I will take you up for it one day.
okay.
When do you think you're going to be able to drill though, more specifically?
We're working on that now. We'll be ready to drill in Q2. So we this week, and because it's FMF, we everyone is here. All the drill contractors are here. So part of our team is busy in discussions and what drills do you have? What are their costs? What's your availability and all that. We're working on that now.
Yeah.
But we will be, like I said, we'll be in a position where we want to drill in Q2. And I think we will be able to line something up. I'm confident, but we'll
Oh,
have a better
Q2.
idea very
I'd
soon.
actually noted H2, so the second half of 20, so like Q3, Q4, but you think Q2?
Well, that's what we're aiming for. It
Okay.
might be safer to say H2, but
Okay.
because it would be near the end of Q2.
Hmm.
So H2 is safer. I'm probably better saying that, but we are trying for Q2.
Hmm. Too early to talk about size and everything else though of the drill program.
No, no, we won't know until we do further exploration. But at an early stage, I mean, we have really shifted gears here. We've got a full team. We've purchased vehicles. It's very easy to rent vehicles here, which is nice. We have an office in Riyadh. We have a guest house and compound and office east of the town or the city of Medina in a town called Halakila. And we also have another guest house and office and compound in the town of Bisha, not to be compared with or confused with the Bisha mine in Eritrea, but the town of Bisha here in Saudi Arabia.
Hmm.
So our teams have been extremely busy. I mean, step one, once Sun Peak took it over, is to have a proper geology map. So we've been verifying everything else and detail mapping all our projects. That's a fundamental and a foundation for everything else that comes after. We've been doing ground electromagnetics with using the Crone time domain electromagnetic system. It's a very, very sophisticated system. It's worked well. We've seen it work in this environment firsthand, and we are well. They're in the fields in the daytime right now, and that'll probably continue for another 6 weeks. We're
Hmm.
doing all the key targets.
What is it? I think it's a bit more abstract, maybe, because it's not grades in a piece of, in an assay table or in a piece of core that you'll see right away. But what is it that you want to see in this current program to consider it a success?
Well,
What are
we,
you
we,
hoping
we
for?
want to see, and I just say what we're already seeing is significant surface expressions, which, if you just based on that, could have strike length that could warrant, the size that we're looking for. That's sort of true on Safra, and Omaya, and Alahila. And or STC has done ground gravity, and there's some compelling gravity anomalies right where they should be underneath the mineralization. And now we're doing electromagnetics. And what we want to see is conductors. And they model the conductors. They'll put them into three-dimensional plates in the ground, sort of oriented whichever way they show. And what we want to see is a plate located underneath the mineralization, showing there's a very large, strong, continuous conductor there, which we're hoping would be caused by a massive sulfide uh, deposit or system.
Hmm.
And take it one step further, a massive sulfide system which is rich in copper, gold, zinc, and silver.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking for. And our basic threshold, in our team was 20 million tons and up for
Hmm.
each one.
So you
Um,
do have a bit of a checklist, I suppose, for VMSs. Like I remember in Ethiopia, you had a kind of a three-part checklist where you had the GOSAN, you had the geophysics, and the geochem kind of coinciding one under each other. So it gives you that perfect, if there's such a thing as a perfect drill target for a VMS. That's more or less than the same here. That's what you'll be chasing.
we're applying the same methods and techniques exactly. It's the same rocks, the same geology, then the same deposit types.
Same age
And I
group.
mean, we're also keeping our eye out for orogenic gold, which sort of exists in the same geological environment. And that is something else we're seeing potential on our licenses.
Same age rocks though.
Yep, same age.
Okay.
Mhm.
It was essentially just one part, right? A long time ago. When was that?
No, it's still, I mean, it's still occurring as we speak in the middle of the Red Sea.
Yeah.
It's in a rift environment. It's pulling apart. There's still, the black smokers that you can Google it right now and see underground photographs of the lava and everything spewing out on the ocean floor,
Hmm.
of the sulfide spewing out on the ocean floor. It's still ongoing. So it's been doing this for I'll probably get my dates wrong, but at least over 700 million years,
Hmm.
and, spreading apart on
Yeah.
both sides.
So how old are the rocks that you're going to be exploring?
Well, I need to confirm this, but They're somewhere in that age group of up to 700 million years.
Yeah.
And as we do more work, our more technical geological team will be able to answer that question correctly.
So this is old rocks that we're talking about here.
Well, in Canada, they're 2 billion and more, but so they're in between.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
fair. Come time to drill, and I understand this very forward looking, but again, you're chasing a VMS essentially, which are typically, again, polymetallic. They contain, as I mentioned at the beginning, in your trenches, you had gold, silver, zinc, lead, sometimes other stuff as well. And they're often higher grade, but they're not often very big. So in this geological setting, what's the kind of size that you think is possible? What's the exploration target size for you?
Well, again, like I said earlier, we're kind of our goal is, for an economic threshold with the kind of grades, over a percent copper, multi-percent zinc, gram gold, 20 million tons and up. And, Bisha, I think the initial resource calculation, which was done completed in September 2004, was 28 million tons. It had grown to somewhere around 40, 45 now. And Madero was 85 million tons. That was part of Sunridge. And then, Jebel Said up in here is somewhere, it compares very closely to Embadero. So they're there. And, we are doing everything and scouring and applying our techniques and trying to rapidly explore. And, I've talked about exploring what we have already, but we also continue to put a lot of effort and into research, continuing to look for new opportunities. We want to be that marquee exploration company or that blue chip exploration company here and continue to keep looking ahead and looking for opportunities. So exploring what we have using, quickly, efficiently, in a nimble way to apply our techniques and methods, but also looking ahead
Mm,
and continuing to go on excursions, geological tourism excursions, uh, checking off all these targets that we've identified in our desktop studies.
mhm. And you get to drive ATVs through the desert.
Well, we in this we haven't used ATVs yet. We've been driving using our Hiluxes, really, or rented vehicles. Don't tell Budget that, but
But that's
uh,
is that because there's just highways or how
there's
or
a massive network of highways, and then it doesn't have the vegetation. It's you're able to access a lot of it off road without having, you need four-wheel drive, but it's not too challenging. It's not too extreme.
yeah. Oh, cool.
We've
Um,
been stuck in sand many, many times. So you want to avoid, trying the real sandy, soft areas. But we are able to access a lot of the areas, and then we hike around where we can't
hmm,
drive to.
yeah. Um, I know you'll be back for another conversation sometime soon, hopefully on the back of some news, and that's when we could do a bit of a deeper dive on the geology. But just one last thing here: the results that you have in trenches. Is it reasonable to expect you could replicate that in core? I mean, it normally isn't with other systems, but what about this?
I still don't think it is. I mean, we're happy to see that. That's encouraging. But I don't believe it's representative. We won't know until we drill. I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of factors. I mean, it's always different at the surface. Hopefully it's more in the unaltered rock as we get deeper, but we won't know that until we drill. Now, I mean, we put on news yesterday, sort of summarizing the projects a little bit, the work that SDC did. We are looking forward to now that we're actively working, which is a great feeling for our team. We expect to have a steady flow of news, of updates on each project as they go. We won't wait till we have we'll do it frequently and keep everybody updated on our progress.
Mhm.
And then hopefully, once you said earlier, the truth machine, once we start drilling, um, we'll do it based on our legwork ahead of time, and we'll be efficient with the drilling. If it's not what we like, we won't chase it. We won't, oh, let's go over here, let's go over here. We want to use the drill to kill technique. We hope we don't kill it, but we want to keep moving on because there's so many targets and so many opportunities here in Saudi Arabia
Mhm.
that we don't want to waste it over drilling an inferior target.
Yeah. I typically have a kind of a trifecta of questions of my own that I follow up with. It's time, money, risks, and I think this does cover time nicely. Might as well talk about money though. How much money do you have, or are you going to have before you start drilling? Because I know you just very recently raised close to 7 million, so you're probably not too far away from it. But once it's time to start drilling, how much are you going to have, and isn't enough to finish a program?
Yeah, right now we have about 6.5 in the bank. As you said, we raised 6.7. The acquisition came with about 500,000. And so we're sitting around 6.5. That is enough to do all our exploration work we have planned for the year, including drilling. Now we hope we're going to need more. We're hoping that we're going to drill and then want to drill more. But if we just continue our plan as it's laid out, we'll finish the year with some over $1 million in the bank.
Mm.
Again, that's not the plan though. The plan is to, demonstrate value by putting updates and we're confident there'll be positive results from our ongoing surface exploration program, from our geophysics, and then ultimately from our drilling.
Mhm. So
And again,
translation, never say never, but the plan is not to raise more capital this year.
no, no, the plan is to. The plan
Oh,
is
okay.
to drill and demonstrate that we want to shift gears from poking a few exploration holes to delineating.
Mhm.
Just like, our first time in the region at Bisha, we went in to drill 5,000 meters and we drilled 70,000 meters.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, we drilled 70,000 meters in a little more than a year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what we hope is we'll drill and we'll have a reason to raise more money to start drilling out an asset.
What are
And we
drilling
talk,
costs there anyway?
well, we know what some of the big companies pay here, and it's very low, but they offer large long-term contracts, and we've been told it's as low as $120 a meter for diamond drilling. Um, I think what we're going to do is be willing to pay more. We want quality drillers. We want quality equipment. We want reliability. We want to work under a time frame. And for that, at least for the first little while, we'll be happy to pay a premium. We're used to 160, 170 in East Africa. I think in this case, if we can get a solid, reliable drilling to start, um, all the savings on all the infrastructure and the speed of getting things in, I think I'd be willing to go higher than that to get started here. Maybe
Mhm.
once we shift into delineation, we'll get try to negotiate for lower prices. But right now, I just want the reliability.
Is it
So we're budgeting at $2 to $3 a meter.
is it challenging to find drillers who would want to come out to Saudi or even local drillers? Do they exist?
Yeah, there's a lot of drill companies, and there's more coming in. And I met with in the last couple of days half dozen drill companies, and a lot of them do large contracts for the big companies here, Modern, the Saudi Arabian company. But they're all eager and they know us, and I think some of them are willing to bet that we're going to drill more than just a few holes when we get started because we're just going to commit to a first phase of drilling. But that gets them working with us. So if we are successful and we shift, they're sitting in a good position for a larger contract.
Hmm. Yeah. What about the monthly burn? Where do you think that's going to be going forward, especially once you ramp up for drilling? I assume you're going to need a little bit more of a ground crew. So where's that money gonna? How much is that
Yeah,
going to be?
well, again, we're detailing that now as we do. We've got meetings next week back in Vancouver where we go over the detailed yearly budget. Uh, I like to again say we're pretty good at this, but as a team, but our sort of basic burn rate, I expect, I'll have a much better idea, will be close to 200,000 a month.
Okay. Yeah. So you're about
And
latest financials. They show about 125, if I've read that correctly.
we'll be
Um,
ramping up a little bit, and we'll likely ramp up more. So
yeah. What about, probably do a little bit more marketing, I assume, as well, or not?
Yeah, we will. We haven't done a lot of marketing in the last few years because we've been hiding under our desks, with trying to, hope for peace to return and get to work. So we've been preserving our capital or cash as much as we can. We've been talking to anybody that will listen, but we haven't actively had a budget for marketing. But the work we're doing now, we want it. We don't want to go into a vacuum. We're confident in our success. We'll try and get as many eyes on our company as we can.
Mm-hmm. Budget and strategy. What's that looking like for marketing?
For marketing, well, we'll continue to reach out to our network. We'll attend the usual network of conferences that, the MIFs, the one-to-ones, the Minds and Money. But on top of that, we will communicate. We're really looking forward to hosting property tours. As they say in real estate, we believe it'll show well. I mean, it's quite, it's so easy to get to, and you can see it. The surface expression of these our targets, and so we're doing all of the above
Mm,
to try and get as many eyes on the company as possible.
right. This actually leads me to the third thing that I mentioned after time and money, which is risk. What do you think is the main risk for the company right now?
I think we have to be successful. I mean, as I said earlier, we really like our projects that we have right now. And the more we spend time, our team is extremely excited. We're confident, but we got to keep looking ahead to make sure that we're nimble and keep adding to our inventory if it doesn't turn out, if it doesn't have the grade we're looking for, or the size, or the conductor we drill is due to a graphitic rock, which has it can be conductive.
Hmm.
Uh, Other risks, I mean, we're used to risks, we're used to challenges. It's it's completely different here. We have access to capital. We've got a great exploration team. We haven't talked about the Ministry of Mines here in Saudi Arabia, but I've never seen anything like it. Ministry of Mines in every jurisdiction in the world I've seen, including Canada, and including every country I've ever worked in, is typically way understaffed, and they don't always have the extensive experience. This ministry is different. They are very, very well staffed. They're very, very responsive and supportive. Um, you know, when we submit something, whether it be an application in most jurisdictions, if we made a mistake, an oversight, or did something wrong, you usually don't find out until they review it. But they do a quick review instantly and they call you, oh, you didn't do this. And at first you're thinking, oh no, we're being scolded. But no, they're trying to help us. They help us. Oh, you got to correct this. I've never seen such support coming out of a Ministry of Mines here as I have here in Saudi Arabia.
Mm.
I mean, the challenges really are technical. We need to succeed.
Yeah. That's something that again we can revisit when or if we do a technical episode as well. But I think, and maybe just in the sake of time, I know it's getting it's almost midnight for you there. It might be worth revisiting the Ethiopian story here for a second, maybe as well. As far as
Yeah, and
I
I'm happy
understand it,
to.
yeah,
I want to make it clear, to we're not walking away.
right.
We're not pivoting totally. We're taking on a second jurisdiction. Um, where everything, as I said, remains in good standing. I'll continue to visit it, and we pay close attention to our network there, meeting with stakeholders, our partners, and hoping that the situation moves to peace and stability, and then we can get back to work there. We have all these targets defined that we want to drill. We've had uh, previous drilling that we've left open, and we want to continue on. And so we really, really hope that we will have the opportunity.
That's what I was going to say. As far as I understand it, work is paused, but you haven't lost the licenses, right?
No, 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 not at all.
Yeah. Gee,
Not
well,
at
okay,
all. And we've developed a lot of friends there. We're very, very, fond of the culture. That's why we go there so much. We enjoy it, and we really hope that stability will return soon.
hmm Gee, realistically though, what does that look like? What is the path to to
Well,
going back there look like?
there's a few things looming. There's federal elections that are supposed to be in the fall. They're sorry, the spring, and we'll have to see. I mean, if any country, that can be a volatile time, so we have to pay close attention to that. And of course, we have to pay attention to the sort of regional politics of what's going on. I mean, you can read the news on that one, and hopefully it settles down. The entire world's volatile right now, but in this area, hopefully that things turn out peaceful.
Hmm. So, well, I was going to ask you about timing on that one too, but I suppose that's a little tougher to answer. Like, it's not.
That is a tough one, and I thought you were going to ask me, and I was trying to think. Okay, well, the answer is I don't know.
Yeah.
I follow the news. I talk to our network. I really hope. But like I said, the elections are coming, and that'll be something to pay attention to how stability goes around the federal elections. And
Hmm.
I hope it goes well.
Is the move to Saudi really only a reaction to you not having an answer to the timing question, or is it
Oh,
part opportunistic as
it's
well?
just a great opportunity. It's just a tremendous opportunity that I think even if we were going full speed ahead, we would try to make it happen here because if we were working in Ethiopia, it's just and we haven't really talked about this, but our geologists, we have four of our senior Ethiopian geologists who are very experienced in these rocks working for us here. So we've got four Ethiopian geologists, we've got Saudi Arabian geologists, we've got two Sudanese and of course our Canadian team and one Australian.
Mhm. So you took them, you saved their jobs essentially.
Well, you can put it that way, but it really benefits us too. They're well trained. They're very experienced geologists, very good at what they do. So I'm very happy to have them as part of our team here.
What does Canada have to say about all this, though? Because I believe the government has received some kind of a request or something for review in relation to your projects in Ethiopia. What exactly is happening there? What does it mean for some peak? Can they influence something?
I'm not quite sure, Antonio, what you're referring to there.
Well, I found something just by Googling. I found something. It was on the government website. I can see if I can find it back in my history. But really, where that goes, and I can send you that after this. Really, where I'm going with this is just thinking about operating in kind of conflict areas or politically sensitive areas, if you will. Does the Canadian government have anything to say about
Oh,
that?
okay. Well, you might be referring to something that happened a few years ago when the conflict was going on, where some NGOs questioned uh, that perhaps we're paying royalties to a side accused of atrocities, but we don't pay royalties. We're exploration. At the time, we suspended everything. All we did was, and we did put a lot of effort into this, is make sure our team stays safe. We put effort into getting them food and money. We have a guest house in Sherry, and we had available to all our staff and family.
Mhm.
We're not a mining company. We don't pay royalties. So there's a bit of a misunderstanding, I think, on the appointment, but it went to the Ministry of Affairs. So you might have seen something on that, but that's
Yeah.
fine. And we had a few discussions on that, but that was a few years ago now when the conflict was going on. That's what I think
September
maybe you saw or something, but I'm not quite sure.
September 10, 2022.
Okay,
Um,
that was when the conflict was on still.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But so
Yeah.
beyond that, there's no the Canadian government doesn't have any authority to stop you from going through with the plan if you're able to
No,
physically access it.
no, and actually, I gotta say that we've received tremendous support from the embassy. They've been absolutely amazing supporting us as a Canadian company, and we share the same values. I mean, we like I said, we just did our best as employers, and through the conflict, I mean, we weren't on anybody's side, but all we were doing is trying to help our employees from being safe. We accrued. We couldn't pay them. The banking system was closed, but we accrued their salaries, And so when we were able to, they got all their back pay. We felt we did everything right as a responsible employer, and we did our best. I can tell you that. And I think our embassy recognized that and appreciate it. And so we get a tremendous amount of help from our embassy. Just a lot of it is sort of thoughts on what's going on how the stability is progressing. But yeah, they're very supportive.
Hmm. Yeah, fair enough. Difficult situations, complicated situations, really. Maybe, well, difficult and complicated, maybe. So interesting to talk about that. What am I forgetting to ask you here, Greg? What did you come here hoping to talk about that I failed to bring up?
I don't know. I mean, the most thing I'm excited about is the work that's happening now, and I'm looking forward to a steady flow of news. I mean that's what I want to talk about, but and how pleased we are with the projects and optimistic about success. We really like what we're seeing, and we look forward to keeping shareholders and everybody up to speed and with updates and news releases as we move forward.
Hmm. What's the most fair criticism of some peak that you've heard since this new deal, since you moved to Saudi?
Criticism. I've heard of, I mean, I think across the board, everyone's been very happy. In fact, the shareholder vote on the deal was quite remarkable. I mean, I've never seen this before. 70% voted of shareholders voted, a very, very high number. Wait, maybe, sorry, 66%? I can't remember, 67, in that range, a very, very high percentage of shareholders voted 100% in favor.
Hmm.
So, I mean, everybody was all for the transaction. Nobody was going, wait, you have these great projects in Ethiopia. We'll want to see you not get, there was none of that. So, we haven't really received a lot of criticism on it.
Good. That's how you know you
In
have the
fact,
support.
I'm trying to give you a good answer on the other side, but I can't think of anything. So,
Well, that's actually probably the best answer you could give me. Again, I think there are some stuff that I'm leaving open for a future conversation, also for people watching and listening. Whatever I'm forgetting, please let me know what it is, and I will ask Greg about it in our future conversation. Again, Greg, though I know it's getting late for you, so I'll let you do your thing. But thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
okay, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Cheers.
And as always, thanks to everyone for watching Resource Talks. I have a couple of more things to say, though. The fact that this company was interviewed here today does not mean that they're necessarily a good or a bad company. I'm not here to endorse nor attack anyone. I am simply here to ask some questions. If you find that I have failed in asking a question that you would have liked to hear an answer to, which will happen as I'm not an experienced interviewer, please let me know and I will try to correct that mistake in a future interview. As mentioned at the beginning, please understand that mineral exploration and development is an extremely risky business. Losing money is the norm and should be the expectation. This is a very complex sector, and the performance of individual companies typically depends on many different moving particles, including company-specific factors like geology, financing ability, and many others, really, as well as particles that are outside of the company's control, like geopolitics, macroeconomics, commodity prices, and many more, most of which are nearly impossible to fully understand. Moreover, these companies that typically get interviewed on Resource Talks are in the pre-revenue stage, which means they rely on the public markets for the financing of their operations, which could result in shareholder dilution. Furthermore, as a general rule of thumb, you'll be better off understanding that all company communications online, albeit this interview or their website and their presentation and their social media accounts, or even the social media accounts which you thought were your friends and then told you about a stock, everything really that these companies do is intended as marketing. And although I do not make buy or sell recommendations because there is a clear conflict of interest given the nature of my business, many out there do. And you should be aware of that inherent bias and you should be careful out there. That bias is not always going to be clearly disclosed with everyone out there. So it is safer for you anytime you're watching any type of company specific content to approach it with a dose of skepticism and assume that the party telling you about it is biased in at least some shape or form, because there will always be a bias. Again, albeit clear or not. So always ask yourself what the incentive of your counterparty is and never rely on them regardless of their incentives, but instead double check if what they're saying is true, again, by using setterplus.ca. The fact that I have no idea what I'm doing should already be clear to you at this point. I am not saying this to make jokes or laugh with myself. I just simply do not have a long enough track record of consistent investment profits. So I should, under no circumstances, be considered an authority on anything. Again, although this may sound amusing to you, believe me, it is not amusing and it is not intended as a joke. I'm simply pointing out a fact and warning you not to rely on anything I do or say. Unfortunately, at least to my understanding, nobody out there has any special abilities. The CEOs do not possess any superior knowledge, and they cannot know about what will go up, what will go down, or what will go in circles. Some people even believe that to be rule number one on Wall Street. Nobody really knows. None of us know whether any of the company's activities will result in a success, again, given that we're talking about high-risk activities where most of the times it ends in failure. So unfortunately, try as I may, I won't always catch all red flags or all challenges with the companies. So even if I did ask a few tough questions in here, don't rely on this being all of the tough questions. Again, these are complicated startups with many moving parts, and I am conflicted given the nature of this business. Therefore, I cannot guarantee the quality of anything presented in this video, and you cannot hold me responsible for any losses or damages stemming from the way you decide to use this interview. Viewers, listeners, and readers acknowledge and agree that the information presented herein did not constitute a solicitation or an offer to buy or sell any security or investment or to participate in any trading strategy. Resource Talks and all parties involved in the management of the business strictly disclaim any and all liability for losses and or damages, whether direct, indirect, special, or consequential, or other consequences, however so caused, arising out of any use or reproduction of the content published by Resource Talks or any decision made or action taken in reliance upon it. By consuming this content, all consumers vow to release Resource Talks and all parties involved in the management of the business from all claims, proceedings, or consequences. This is all to say, I know it's a lot of lawyer talk, but this is all to say that you shouldn't blindly trust me or anybody on the internet, and you should do your own research. Once again, social media is meant for entertainment. It is setterplus.ca where you do your research. That's where you'll find the company's official filings, and I encourage you to read and analyze the Management Information Circular, the financial statements, the Management Discussion and Analysis, and whenever available, the NI 43-101 technical documents. If you don't understand everything in those documents, the chances of you losing money are even higher than they normally are in this space. And as mentioned earlier, the chances of even the best analysts in this sector losing money are extremely high, since this is venture capital and it is not for everybody. I'll leave you with one of Charlie Munger's quotes, which I wish I had listened to more often earlier on, which says, quote, "If you don't understand it, don't do it."